Good afternoon, Knicks Nation. Today is Tuesday, the 25th of April, 2023. I hope you're having a good week so far this week. You and your family safe and healthy. Speaking of health, blessings upon those that work in the healthcare field who, along with the first responders, work together to try to save lives every day. Blessings upon those that pick up the garbage for us to keep our streets, sidewalks, buildings, stairwells, basements clean and disease-free. And those also who make deliveries of important things like food, water, documents, mail for our convenience. Double blessings on the men and women who are out here trying to help rescue, deliver, and recover the teenagers and children that are the victims of child molestation and pedophilia. People who are also the victims of prostitution, child prostitution, pornography, child pornography, human trafficking, sex slavery. Double curses on all those who perpetrate these things, along with those who profit from these things and the perverts that create the demand from which the supply comes. Finally, blessings upon the homeless. There are nearly 600,000 men, women, and children homeless, mostly children in the richest country on earth, and millions around the world in similar or worse conditions. Blessings upon them, for theirs is the kingdom. All right, today we're going to talk about some controversial stuff, a little bit controversial that needs to be addressed. Now, first off, let's go back 3 years, because to me, the journey that the Knicks are on, as I mentioned multiple times, started 3 years ago with the hiring of Tom Thibodeau, by the hiring of Leon Rose and that crew that came with them, including Walt Perrin, including the trainers, including the coaches, the whole staff, but the front office and the coaching staff. This is where we began our rebuild with the New York Knicks. 3 years ago, Tom Thibodeau came in. Now, prior to this, we know media hate strong against New York for many reasons, some legit, some not legit. Media hate for James Dolan was extremely strong, both from Knicks Nation and from the media, of course. Unfortunately, many Knicks Nation buy into the foolishness from the media, but that's another story. So there was some real animus toward the Knicks 3 years ago. That animus continued all through, even up till now. Every loss seems like it's a chant to fire Thibodeau or bring out the lynch mob. Every loss. It seems like there's some chant to fire the front office. Every time somebody doesn't play right, somebody needs to be blamed. People are always looking to blame. One thing I wanted to counsel you in Knicks Nation, let the media worry about blame. Just support your squad. But anyway, that's how we ended up to where we are now. Because if you're looking objectively, over the last 3 years, the Knicks have a 57% winning percentage under Tom Thibodeau. They've been in the playoffs 2 of the last 3 years, including this year, where they finished 30, 47, and 35, fifth seed in the East. Okay? Somebody tried to claim Thibodeau's an average coach, but listen, average coaches don't go 47 and 35 in the East in a rebuild with no superstar. But anyway, that being the case, because of the animus and because of the hate that has been built up over the last 25 years, it continued, and some people are waking up to it. As a matter of fact, right now, we got a lot of so-called Knicks fans on big platforms that wasn't fans even 6-8 months ago at the beginning of the season. But all of a sudden now they all fans and they all on the bandwagon. I wouldn't get too caught up in that Knicks Nation, because soon as some rough patches hit, they're going to be gone. But that's what we got right now. Now, all during Knicks Nation's rebuild of 3 years now, there's been, again, I mentioned heavy criticism of Tom Thibodeau, heavy criticism of the Don, Leon Rose, heavy criticism of players, particularly a couple of players. Number two is R.J. Barrett. Since the young boy got drafted, people have been whining for either Zion or Ja, who got drafted ahead of him, who the Knicks wasn't going to get, or people that got after him trying to compare him to other people and his development's too slow and blah, blah, blah. He's got to go and all of this. But of course, I'm glad that the Don and those in the front office and Tom Thibodeau completely ignore such fools and continue to develop R.J. Barrett. And then over the course of this past weekend, he again showed he's big game Barrett, Broadway Barrett, and Star J. Okay, of course, the next bad game he has, all of the Boo Birds come out on force because that's what they do. But the most polarizing player is Julius Randle. Julius Randle was signed more than 3 years ago. He was signed 4 years ago. And Scott Perry And then Steve Mills went out to California, signed him with a 3-year deal, with the third year being a team option, $63 million. Julius comes to New York. Julius, at that time, was well known to be a guy that could get you 20-10, but on losing teams. Didn't make his teammates better. His first year in New York continued to prove that point. As New York lost, ended up with a losing record. Coach got fired. And here come Leon Rose with the expectation that Leon Rose was going to trade Julius Randle, which is why they drafted one, Obi Toppin. But Tom Thibodeau had other ideas. And Tom Thibodeau worked closely with Randle, believed in Randle, as he does with vets usually. And of course, we know the story. Randle became All-Star and All-NBA in the first year under Tom Thibodeau. Knicks finished 4th in the East, 41-31 in the 72-game season. But they lost in the first round 4-1 to the Atlanta Hawks. Now, at that time, if you remember, there was a lot of talk on two camps. And one camp is the Knicks might have been more competitive or even won that series if we had the services of Mitchell Robinson, who was hurt, had broken his foot that year. And we had, if we had those services, we'd have had somebody that could battle with Clint Capella, and maybe we had a chance. And then there was another camp that said Julius Randle just choked against Atlanta. That was the first playoff in Julius Randle's career. That was like his 7th season. That was the first time he was in the playoffs at the time. And so he would get double teamed. He was doing the spin move that always gets him in trouble and turned the ball over a lot. And yes, he did not have a good series against Atlanta. At that summer, again, the Knicks tried to revamp on the run and brought in veterans that didn't really help the situation. And again, the Knicks ended up with 37-45 under Tom Thibodeau, with again people howling for his firing, howling about why you calling him the Don and all of this crap. And that was the second season of the rebuild. Again, we have to look long term. If we want long term sustainable winning, you got to go through processes. Many people were calling the Knicks middling, as if you go right from the bottom to the top without going through the middle. I never understood that. But again, that was more media hate that unfortunately Knicks fans started buying into. Those with emotional problems and drug problems, there's help available for you. But in the third season, as we know now, Julius Randle was again an All-Star. The Knicks acquired Jalen Brunson in the offseason, paid him $104 million, and they came through and won 47 games. At the trade deadline, they even up Mobb Deep by adding on Josh Hart to the crew. And that brought us, we had 2 8-game winning streaks of at least 8 games, multiple winning streaks of 3 or 4 games, more than the Knicks had in recent memory, and finished with the best record they had in the last 10 years. So now we go into the playoffs against Cleveland. And at this time, all of the youngins we were getting over the years, the Mitchell Robinson, who came before Tom Thibodeau, who Tom Thibodeau loved. R.J. Barrett, again, we mentioned him, came before Tom Thibodeau, who Tom Thibodeau loved. These guys start to develop and grow from little seedlings into trees. They're still growing. They're not at their peak yet, but they're now much better than they were 2 years ago. That's the key here. And then under the present regime, we drafted Quentin Grimes, we drafted Deuce McBride, we drafted Emmanuel Quickley, we drafted Obi Toppin. We signed key players, as we mentioned, as Jalen Brunson, Isaiah Hartenstein, Josh Hart, to complement our youngins, and we went to a new level. So now, the difference between 2 years ago and now with Julius Randle is all of the pieces around him are better than they were 2 years ago. 2 years ago, he had Elfrid Payton as his point guard. No knock on Payton, defensive specialist, but no offense to speak of, as we know. And now we got Jalen Brunson. 2 years ago, we had Reggie Bullock. Spot-up shooter, solid defender, but Grimes is younger and better. He can play off the dribble, Grimes. He can hit the spot-up jump shot. And, of course, he's a lockdown defender. Okay? And so we mentioned R.J. Barrett, Mitchell Robinson, both healthy, both better. So the players around him are better. The bench is better. The bench is deeper. And so now in this playoffs with Cleveland, the Knicks have been winning Pretty much. I mean, Julius has made some plays during this thing, like the block on Mitchell, Donovan Mitchell. Everybody wants to talk about it. Okay. But for the most part, the Knicks have been winning against Cleveland in spite of Julius Randle. Because of all the players around him are better now. So now we're at a situation. The Knicks drafted Obi Toppin. It is quite evident to me that Obi's a starter in the NBA. But he's only getting 10 to 15 minutes a game under Tom Thibodeau because Thibodeau has Julius Randle as starting power forward, and Thibodeau plays his guy. Well, it's not uncommon in the NBA, 30, 35 minutes a game. That's pretty common in the NBA for the starting four, okay? Starting power forward. And that's what Thibodeau does. Julius has been very reliable, which is a big thing with Tom Thibodeau. But of course, as we know, there are times when he mentally checks out, when he emotionally checks out. And it usually shows up in him on the defensive end where he just doesn't care anymore. You never know when it's going to happen. There are games where he's totally engaged on both ends of the floor. And he may not score a lot of points, but the Knicks win because he's engaged. He's the leader. He's one of the oldest players on the team. I mean, aside from the bench piece like a D Rose or a Fournier, I'm talking about in the rotation. He's probably the oldest guy in the rotation. Okay? And he's only like 28, 29 years old. So sometimes he checks out. Okay? Now, this doesn't help the playoff reputation he has developed. 2 years ago, he didn't show up. And he's not showing up now. Now, what does all this mean? Again, this summer, the Knicks have decisions to make. Some of y'all seem to think that Obi's just going to wait around till he's 26 to get his starting opportunity. I got news for you. That ain't going to happen. Because he can't. He's 25. He got to start playing somewhere. Okay? At the same time, we haven't gotten the production from Randle that we expect in the playoffs. If the Knicks were getting that solid 2010 with 4 or 5 assists and defense, the Knicks would have swept Cleveland by now. Because the Knicks are the better team. Okay? I'm not blaming Julius Randle for that. But I'm saying the lack of Julius Randle hurt us. So, that is why I want to say to you something today. Tomorrow's game is big for the New York Knicks, but it's bigger for Julius Randle. And somebody mentioned, he waved and he was clapping on his teammates on the sideline. Look, man, for 3+ years, Julius has had a history of not supporting his teammates. There have been games where we know he's tripped out and lost us games because he tripped out. There's been games when he pushes his teammates out his way. There's been games when he jumps in his teammates' face, even this year. That you cannot tell me that's supporting your team. That's at best unbalanced. Obi Toppin, on the other hand, brings energy and light to the team. His attitude, his demeanor, his style of play just wakes everything up. So there's decisions to be made. Julius Randle is going to help New York make that decision tomorrow. If Julius comes and does what Julius can do, and I'm going to root for him to do it. I really am. Even though I would not mind Obi starting. I'm not fronting. I mean, Obi, Mitch Rob, Deuce, those are my guys. And of course, Mitch Rob, those are my dudes. But I'm rooting for Julius because he wears orange and blue. So I'm saying, okay, he needs to come correct tomorrow. We know what Donovan Mitchell's going to do. Okay, and we're going to talk about strategy tomorrow. But today, we're going to need Julius to come and be all NBA All-Star Julius tomorrow. If he lays an egg tomorrow, and then in the fourth quarter, Tom Thibodeau plays Obi again, I don't know, man. I don't know what to tell you. But it wouldn't be looking good for Julius being a Knick this summer. I will tell you that. Okay, the Knicks could close out this series tomorrow. And if Julius becomes Julius, the good Julius, not the bad Julius, not the trick Julius, the Julius that dominates, If he comes with that Julius tomorrow, and I don't want to hear nothing about Evan Mobley. No, that's not what's stopping Julius. Evan Mobley ain't stopping Julius. You know what's stopping Julius? Julius. That's what's stopping Julius. Julius is. It ain't the Cleveland strategy. We're going to talk more about it tomorrow, but it ain't that. It's Julius right here. That's up. If he come correct tomorrow, then we good. We good. If he come and lay an egg tomorrow, we may have a problem. Okay? We may have a problem. Or should I say, Julius may have a problem. The Knicks ain't got no problem. So, I'm pulling for him. I hope tomorrow he gets us to 2010 with the defense, with his IQ up and he's rotating and he studied the film and he's ready to go. And he brings it. Like, if he does that and we lose, I can live with it. It's not that winning or losing for Julius Randle. I want to see him engaged, completely engaged on both ends of the floor, diving, blocking, rebounding, being the strong monster that we know he could be. And I don't care if he's not hitting his three, but if he is, that's even better. But we're going to talk about, again, tomorrow, the strategy. He's going to have opportunities. So what we need to do is just hope that he come correct tomorrow. Because if he don't come correct, and again, you end up a fourth quarter with Obi. And again, I don't have a problem with that. But I'm telling you, this is not going to look good for Julius. Okay? So we'll see what happens. But again, he's the most polarizing player we got on this roster. This summer, it could be, yes, let's just go through the summer. Let's see what we could build around Julius and everybody. And then Obi be looking to get traded. Or it's let's get rid of him, get what we can because he's all NBA or all-star, whatever. And then we have Obi cheaper starting at the power forward spot. It's going to be one of them two. And tomorrow will go a long way of making that determination. Y'all enjoy your Tuesday. Sure.